everyone. Welcome to the KoinX show, a place where we talk all things Web3 and crypto so that you can stay ahead of the curve. Today we have the co-founder of Cypherock, Rohan Agarwal, with us, who is building world's first Web3 wallet without a seed phrase. Rohan has been previously an engineer at Samsung, Fossasia, and even Apollo Munich. He's been in the crypto space from 2018. Welcome, Rohan, to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Ayush. It's been a pleasure here.
Awesome. So, Rohan, let's take a step back and talk about a little bit of your journey, right? It's been a lot of journey from Web2 and the transition to Web3, right? Tell us a little bit more about that. How was your first interaction with Web3? How did you get started? And some of the glimpse of what you did in Web2 as well.
Yeah, I mean, so this is 2017. Me and my co-founders, we're both from the same college, Delhi College of Engineering, both doing engineering. Really fascinated about decentralization in general because that was just sort of propping up at that time. And you know how the crazy ICO boom was, right, in 2017. So we went to hackathon. This is still 2017 January, by the way. The bull run hasn't started yet. We said, let's build something cool on Ethereum. We didn't were able to build something very cool. Like we tried building something like, decentralized crowdfunding at that point. But it was like, like the main key takeaway from that experience was that why is someone buying, something digital for $21? And this is still January. One Ethereum was about $21 at that time.
Oh.
Yeah. And I was like, who's buying this thing digitally, like who's paying $21? It's so expensive. And I was the same person who bought Ethereum like 6 months down the line at $250. So that's what has been my journey or my intro into crypto in general. 2017, yeah, we're still in college. We said, this is picking up pace. And we were too curious to miss about why is this something digital picking up space, which has tremendous value. So we decided trading and investing with whatever money that we had from the different internships, while we were there in college. We took that and we said the best way to learn about this space is to actually have skin in the game.
Yeah.
And so we took that money, started trading, investing, bunch of ICOs, how it is, how it was at that time.
Right. Yeah.
We made bunch of money, and then came 2018. We got more than like 95% liquidated, and then we were like, we realized that everyone is sort of a genius in a bull market. It's when a bear market hits when you realize you're not that genius.
Yeah.
So we said, let's actually focus on things we are good at, which is technology, rather than speculating on these assets, which we basically have no control over.
Yeah.
So, as I said, me and my co-founders, both are technical. I'm more from the software background, worked in a startup before, which got acquired, worked with Apollo Munich as well, and also through a remote open source organization, Fossasia, through Google Summer of Code. I always wanted to build in the crypto stuff. We didn't know what we wanted to build. We just found out that, and my co-founder, on the other hand, has more like a hardware and the security background. He worked in partnership with Lockheed Martin and was also the first employee at Nimble Labs, which is a food robotics startup based out of Bangalore, backed by Flipkart's co-founder, Vinny. So we said, and we used to like go to hackathons before. So you're like, what are some of the unique challenges in the space that we could uniquely solve that, others might not be able to solve that efficiently? And self-custody and hardware wallets was something of very interest to us. Primarily because, what we realized at that time was the exchanges, and that is sort of even today, that the exchanges have sort of the most mind share. And if that sort of continues over the next decade or so, they will have eventually the same set of regulations that the banking industry has today in the finance 2.0 world. And if that continues, then we would not have the Web3 that we expect. It will be the same Web2 or finance 2.0 world all over again. And so what we realized, self-custody was something which was very differentiated in the Web3 world versus the Web2 finance 2.0 world. And it sort of needed to be sort of scaled up for the masses for Web3 to actually realize its potential that it has, right? And yeah, that was sort of the core mission from day one. How can we sort of scale self-custody for the Web3 ecosystem? And that's how, me and my co-founder started
And I
working.
think I really like what you're building in terms of wallets and without a seed phrase. But the culture of wallet security safety is just growing out in India, and for especially the users that are there in the channel, right, are still getting to cope up with what is a wallet and what type of security does it give and what it could solve. So let's start with basics first, right, Rohan? And let's dive deep into on what's a wallet, right?
Right.
What it can solve and what it can store, right? Couple of things that it can store apart from cryptos as well. So let's first dive into the basics.
Sure. I mean, in the most simplest terms, like for people who don't know, like, you have Paytm as a wallet where you store your fiat. Similarly, in the crypto space, you have crypto wallets wherein you essentially store your private keys of your crypto, and private keys are essentially, a way to get access to your crypto. So whoever, think of it like your home, and your home, anyone can access your home with your key, your home key.
Okay.
Similarly, to your home key, you have private keys in crypto, which you have to store securely in order to access your funds. Now, if someone else gets hold of your private keys, they can access your crypto as well, right? So you have to store this private key very securely. People have different methods of storing it today. So the more easier method is through exchanges, wherein the exchanges keep custody of your digital assets on your behalf. That's the easiest of the model, and what probably most of the users use today. Instead of storing it with them, because they are like they have a lot of funds, they are always a target of hackers and things like that. So a better way, similar to how you store gold, right? So with even gold, the one way is you store it with the bank lockers, and the other is basically you store it with yourself. You basically self custody your gold securely. So similarly with crypto, you can store your private keys with yourself as well. Now, storing that private keys have different sort of convenience/security models. So the most convenient way is to basically download a software wallet, which is basically like an app on your desktop or on your smartphone, right? And that is where you store your private key, right? That's more convenient for the user, but again, it comes with its own security challenges, in the sense that your private keys are only as secure as your phone is, and you know how many hacks and these days PCs are even getting compromised on a monthly basis. And so the more better or the more secure way to store these private keys, instead of an internet connected device like your smartphone or PC, is to store it dedicatedly in a hardware product, or something like, think of it like a secure pen drive, which is purposefully designed for storing these private keys. So on one hand, you have these software wallets. On the other hand, you have these something called as hardware wallets. In which your private keys are stored offline. It doesn't have access to the internet in any circumstance, and that's why it's sort of 10x more secure than a software wallet. So it's the basic premise on the different kinds of wallets out there.
There's a very famous saying, not your keys, not your coins.
Right.
That's have been the saying around. I think a very good explanation on the software wallets and even the hardware wallets. I want to a little bit dive deep into the hot wallets, right? And cold wallets, like you talked about. Exchanges has hot wallets, right? And there are multiple and different hot wallets like MetaMask and stuff like that, which has different use cases. And cold wallets like Ledger, Cypherock, and then a Treasure. There are for a basic user understanding, let's find out the differences on what is a hot wallet and what is a cold wallet, Rohan.
Yeah, so hot wallet simply means that your private key is stored on a system which is connected to the internet, as simple as, right? And whereas a cold wallet is basically where your private keys are sort of stored in a system where it is not connected to the internet. So a cold wallet is definitely more secure in all of the circumstances, simply because you have 100x less attack vectors, which are generally enabled through internet. And that's how most of the hacks happen today as well. So very simply, the connection of internet defines whether the wallet is a hot wallet or a cold wallet.
When you talked about the hot wallets, right, that it might be have a lot of security issues, but don't you think VPNs and cybersecurity companies play a very big picture or role over here?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
As far as VPNs are concerned, they essentially manage your security around your network, right? So
Yeah.
essentially, you don't want to expose your IP address of where you are located, right? That's where a VPN helps you. But where it doesn't help you is the storage of your private keys, because those are done locally on your PC or your smartphone, right? So even if you're using, maybe let's assume a VPN which routes your your internet traffic to Singapore, you're still hackable in the sense that your private key is still on your local PC. So it definitely gives you some layers of protection, but it doesn't guarantee you the fact. If you are
100% protection.
exactly, and the thing is, like, security is not binary, it's not 0 to 1, it's always a spectrum, right? And so there are different sort of attack vectors which are generally possible. You need to sort of take care and have precautions against all of those attack vectors, because even if you are covered 90%, but there's a chance, where you could get hacked with the remaining 10% attack vectors, which you didn't consider before. So usually that's how security. So obviously VPN covers you against network related attacks, but there are other attacks like physical attacks or maybe even phishing attacks or social engineering attacks. Those are the kind of attacks where your VPN cannot protect you.
Got it. Awesome. So I think when we just started our conversation, right, you talked a lot about public keys, private keys, right? And this is somewhere related to cryptography as well, right? So before diving deep into how we can essentially store cryptos in a much better way, let's talk about the basic concepts of cryptography as well, in terms of what is a public key, what is a private key, and stuff like that. Why don't you, Rohan, dive deep into cryptography and stuff and cover it all? Yeah.
Sure. So let me sort of first take 2 steps back before we sort of delve into public cryptography, because it's very important for the listeners to know the exact context on how it came about. So with Web2, if you see, like, all of the Web2 authentication basically happens through something called as a username and password, right? So if you're creating a Google account, a Facebook account, you basically create your own username and you basically create your own password. Now, let's assume you're using Twitter, you give your username to someone else, and that's how they follow you, right? But only you are the person who can log into Twitter on that username through your password that you had set. So that's how the authentication in Web2 works, right? Very simply. Coming to Web3, it's sort of way different, because in Web2, it's the database of your Facebook account or your Google, where they are basically authenticating you to their network, right? So that you can get authorized access to that network. But with Web3, the authentication is completely flipped. So instead of a centralized company who is trying to authenticate you for a specific network, you are sort of authorizing it on your own end, right? How that happens is through something called as public key cryptography. Like, the core basic fundamentals are essentially you have a private key and a public key. A private key is very analogous to your password that you set in Web2, and your public key is very analogous to your username that you set in Web2. You can give your public address, which is sort of derived from a public key, to someone else, so that you can receive your digital assets in your crypto wallet, essentially. But if you want to send crypto out of your wallet, you need to have that private key access so that you can authorize it through something called as digital signature. So just how in the physical world you sort of sign your checks so that you authorize a transaction out of your account. So similarly, in the crypto world, you have this something called as digital signatures, which is enabled through these private keys. So someone who has access to that private key and maybe which has funds stored associated with that, only the person who has access can transact funds out of that sort of wallet, right? And so hence it's very important to secure this private key. But there is big difference between how private keys work in Web3 and how passwords work in Web2. So with Web2, the passwords, if you forget it, you can approach Facebook, Google again to sort of reset it out for you. You are the one who sort of owns this private key. There's no central database, there's no centralized company who actually can reset this private key in case you forget it, or in case you lost it, or in case someone steals it. So in those cases, if you lose it, your funds are gone forever, essentially. So it's extremely important why you can still forget your password and recover it, but with private keys, things are very different. And with private keys, one other difference is you cannot remember it because it's a very long string of characters.
14, 15, right? Some depends on company to
Very
company.
long, it depends protocol to protocol in some sense, but it's very long such that it's not customizable. So you cannot choose your own private key, in the sense very randomized. And so that's why it's almost impossible to sort of remember it until you are someone with a great memory.
If you're Shakespeare,
Yeah,
then someone that can remember. Yeah.
Yeah, but for most people, I would say 99.99% of people, it's not possible to remember it. You have to store it somewhere. And then you sort of, you have these attack vectors against the loss of that private key and the theft of that private key.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Coming to loss or theft, let's talk about why security matters and problem with current wallets, right? You're seeing a lot of Web2 wallets also being hacked, right? We recently saw
the Slope wallet.
Solana, the Sol wallet getting hacked. So let's talk about what are the current problems in Web3 wallets, and how we can dive this conversation on how things could be changed within the wallets ecosystem.
Right. So if we talk about, going to take a step back from there. So if you see how private keys are stored right now, it's generally stored in sort of a single place, right? Which could be your desktop, your smartphone, or this dedicated hardware. The problem is, from first principles, there's nothing in the world that is 100% secure, right? That you can't make that, right? There's always a cost to attack a specific system. Now, the thing is, people thought, okay, your PC, because it's connected to your Wi-Fi, your smartphone is connected to your Wi-Fi, those are not great, but maybe the hardware wallets are the safest. And to be honest, the current solutions are the state of the art in the industry before us. But the problem is, even they have been hacked before. So the top two hardware wallets, one of them, Treasure, if you talk about, they were last hacked in 2020. They are still, in some sense, hackable if you don't use a very strong passphrase, which, it's an advanced feature. I don't recommend it to most people. Ledger, which is also one of the market leaders in the space, unfortunately, they have been hacked 3-4 years ago as well. So things which people thought were very secure, the problem is, because your private key is stored in a single place inside that hardware, you breach that hardware, your private keys are also compromised. Now, what we thought was this was always going to be a problem because you can't make a system 100% secure. So we thought, it might be better if we never store that private key in a single place. So essentially, instead of centralizing that private key, we sort of decentralized that private key also. So in our case, we sort of take that private key, we use something called as technically cryptographic threshold schemes, which sort of decentralizes your private keys into 5 parts. And all of those 5 parts are stored into tamper-proof hardware, which you sort of, geographically distributed. So one in your home, another one in your office, maybe to your family, parents, stuff like that. But here's the magical part. Whenever you want to make a transaction, you don't need to fetch all of the 5 parts. You just need to fetch the device and any one of the cards to make a transaction. So in our case, it's this device and the 4 of these cards. So whenever you want to make a transaction, you just need to fetch the device and any one of the cards to make a transaction. And then even if you lost any 3 out of these 5 things, so let's assume you lost the device and the 2 cards, or maybe you lost the 3 cards, your funds are still recoverable from the remaining 2. So it's like, so the easiest analogy I would like to say here is how sort of Voldemort is not easy to sort of kill in Harry Potter, because his soul is sort of divided into these different Horcruxes, which makes it very difficult to sort of kill him out. So very similar, not exact analogy. I would say if Voldemort would have used our product, this would have been much safer. But anyways, very similar to how it sort of occurs, wherein there's no sort of single point of failure in our product. So even if the hardware is compromised, your funds are still, it's theoretically impossible to hack your hardware, to hack your funds, even in that case.
Got it. Awesome. So, when I think that was a brilliant concept first to tell that. Though I have not tried Cypherock, but I would definitely. Talking more on when you talked about the seed phrase and stuff like that. No, so this was all about hardware wallets, right? Let's talk about hot wallets as well, right? MetaMask, the Soul wallet and stuff like that. And upcoming wallets like Leap wallets and stuff like that. We are seeing a natural trend where they are allowed. So seed phrase is definitely there, right? But now they are allowing even the users to choose their own password, okay, where they choose. But if you want to change the password, you again need a seed phrase to that, right? So, Rohan, since you are an engineer, you understand all this. Can the same concept that is there, which Cypherock is applied, can that be applied to hot wallets as well or not?
I mean, yeah, it can sort of definitely apply the kind of like, I mean,
Yeah.
the way we sort of decentralize the private key, it can definitely, apply to hot wallets as well. But I don't think that is sort of required there, to be honest, because hot wallet serves a very specific purpose, which is to give you convenience in the sort of the crypto world, right? Where you
Yeah.
want to quickly trade NFTs, you quickly want to do DeFi stuff and stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
When it comes to convenience, the thing is hot wallets will always be better
Yeah,
because it's much better user experience for the user. The
absolutely.
reason
Yeah.
why someone buys a cold wallet is when he or she is trying to optimize for security,
Yeah.
right, of his assets or her assets. So that's where we are sort of focusing on, wherein whenever a user wants to store his or her most of the assets, that's when they should consider
Yeah.
using Cypherock, I would say.
Got it. Awesome. So when we talked about assets, right? Asset, just for the user understanding. I recently saw that even NFTs now could be stored in a hardware wallet. Is that something true or not? Right?
Yeah, I mean, so anything that is sort of associated with your crypto private key is sort of secured by a hardware wallet,
Hardware
right?
wallet.
So NFTs, again, it's sort of directly associated with your Ethereum private key in most cases, or maybe if it's a NFT on some other chain like Solana or any other chain, those are associated with your specific wallet key of that specific chain. That could be Ethereum, it could be Solana. And if that key is sort of securely stored inside your hardware wallet, then your NFTs are also sort of secured
Yeah.
with the hardware wallet in that sense.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, one of the things which have been popping up these days around the security of NFTs is something called as blind signing, where users,
What is that?
yeah, so blind signing essentially is when a user is sort of, trying to sign a transaction which maybe transacts out or transfers out that NFT, right?
Okay.
But because those are smart contract signing, there are a lot of bad actors that sort of, take advantage of that and basically make you sign certain smart contract transactions, which might give them access to your existing funds,
Yeah.
right? So it's a very big problem. That is also something which we are actively solving, and we'll be out with a solution soon, so that your NFTs have that extra layer of protection, even while you are sort of transacting with a hardware wallet. That's something we are sort of actively working on.
Awesome. So let's talk about the future of wallets, right? Future of hardware wallets, future of hot wallets as well. So with hot wallets, we have seen this trend where everything is just fitted into one wallet. Whether it's your swaps that you want to make, it's the DeFi, if it's the NFTs that want to showcase. There are a couple of wallets. So do you think, and since you rightly mentioned, hot wallet gives specifically, more user experience to get access to more protocols and stuff like that. So, but hardware wallet is just for safety. Do you think hardware wallets, in terms of the developments for the future, can everything and anything can be done from an hardware wallet? What are your thoughts on the future of hardware wallets? Yeah.
Yeah, you sure. In fact, you'd be surprised to know there are actually a lot of people who actually actively use hardware wallets to do their DeFi stuff, NFT stuff these days. Yeah, because those have a higher volume, so they don't tend to use a hot wallet in the first hand. So in those cases, even if let's assume they're using the MetaMask interface for doing those DeFi NFT stuff, still the funds or your private keys are still stored inside the hardware wallet. So what that means is, even if you're using that interface, the transaction signing happens inside that hardware wallet. So it's not that it's not there. It's just that a software wallet sort of gives you more convenience
Yeah, true.
storing your funds.
Mm.
A hardware wallet gives you more security, or more like 10x more security than a
Yeah.
hot wallet today. So
Yeah.
if you are someone who's doing a sort of like has a higher volume of transactions, there are a lot of people who are using a hardware wallet by default because they don't know what might happen tomorrow. Like, I mean,
100%.
security is always about precautions. It's never like a a postmortem thing that you do it after you're hacked, right?
Absolutely. And people with higher volumes, right? And people who have a lot of money don't mind spending money on security. And that is 400% sure. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that should be like sort of common
Yeah.
practice has already sort of started happening with, as you rightly pointed out, the slope hack these days.
Yeah.
When the wallet was hacked, there was literally like the seed phrase getting sent direct, or the seed phrase getting logged and sent to the servers. Think of it like that. It's very bizarre. Right?
Yeah.
And so in like, if we consider our case, like we are trying to solve the four fundamental issues. So one was, how can we make, wallets 10x more secure? Second was, how can we eliminate the seed phrase from the equation of the wallet, right? Which every wallet has this problem, wherein you're writing those 24 words down on a piece of paper. You could lose it. If someone gets access to that, your funds are gone, even in that case, even if your wallet is secure. And then solving the inheritance problem, wherein, God forbid, I die tomorrow. Well, what happens to my funds stored on my MetaMask? What happens to my funds stored on my Ledger wallet, right? Those are some of the things which needs to be solved for crypto to actually take off as a fundamental asset class, right? And the future, if you see, what I feel, it's always going to be multi-wallet, multi-chain, multi-device. That's what I have seen happening these days, because there are people, who are doing DeFi and NFT stuff on Solana. At the same time, they are the same people, doing things on Ethereum. They are doing cross-chain transactions, stuff like that. So there will always be sort of different wallets that you use, or always be different chains that they sort of interact with. And so keeping that as a future in mind, what we are building is sort of probably world's first wallet aggregator as well. So in our wallet, what is enabled is, instead of, so if you consider maybe any other wallet, like let's assume Ledger wallet, right? You can sort of only store one seed phrase inside one Ledger hardware. What we enable is, we allow you to store multiple seed phrases or multiple wallets in the same product, similar to how Gmail accounts work in your browser, right? So very similar to that. So you can store your seed phrase of your MetaMask in one wallet with a different pin. You can store Ledger seed phrase in another pin. Third wallet you can create natively on Cypherock. So what that allows you to do is, instead of going to MetaMask to track the portfolio on MetaMask, or instead of going to Ledger to track portfolio there, you actually can track all of your portfolios in one place through our sizing or desktop app. So that's also something we are enabling right now. It's live. So yeah, that's something
actually a lot of developments in the hardware world, the wallet world, though I have not very much focused on those areas, but I think with today's conversation I got to know about a lot of stuff that are happening in the wallet space, and especially you building something which is very different from what others are building. But thanks, Rohan, for coming on the podcast. But before going, we have one twist for the podcast today. That's the rapid fire round, and your answers have to be very quick. We have kept only 4 questions, just for entertainment purpose only. But let's for such. So this have to be very rapid. Okay.
Quite required in the beer market.
Otherwise, we are not gonna push this to our YouTube. Never mind. So let's go first with the rapid fire round. Which is the first coin that you bought?
Obviously, Bitcoin. No doubts.
No doubts, right. Now we have to name this person. So this founder, this blockchain network had 8 co-founders. All of them have left and started building their own startup. Now only one is left, which is this blockchain.
Oh, it's Ethereum.
Yeah. If you didn't know the answer, this case second in the market cap. In one word, what does Web3 mean to you?
It's social. So one of the key things that people think it's very technological, but actually more than being technological, I think it's social, right?
Social.
Because like it's always the community first that drive things in Web3. And that's how I think most of the decision making are going to be made as well, as far as the future protocols are concerned.
Awesome. Name one person that you consider your guru in crypto.
it's actually very. I mean, I would say that there are a lot of people like
Yeah.
I mean, if you see Twitter, like that, these are people.
Yeah.
Obviously, Vitalik is definitely one of them.
Vitalik, yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, his blog posts are pure gold.
Very
So,
good. Very good.
very, very great blog.
Though you are a software engineer, for you it's easy to understand. For people who are non-tech backgrounds, don't understand very easily. But I really like the backpack one, his travel bag, and the way he showed that how he travels and around across multiple countries, the single backpack. Yeah, I think that's sort of the rapid fire round that we wanted to go. Thanks a lot to Rohan for coming on the podcast. I hope that our people and our users as well, and people that have subscribed to the channel, take a lot of learnings in terms of security of their crypto and their digital assets as well. Secondly, I want to mention that any of the advice or any of the talk that Rohan has told on this podcast, and even if I have told on this podcast, none of this is a financial advice. This is just for entertainment purpose and information purpose only. We do not advise any of you to buy cryptos from this stuff. So yeah, just a disclaimer over there. Thanks a lot, Rohan, for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Ayush. It's been a pleasure.